The message came on a Tuesday morning. A cheerful group text, filled with cake emojis and plans. But nowhere in it was my name. Just this line, "Let's keep it peaceful this year, Hannah won't be attending." I reread it 5 times. No explanation. No private message. Just a quiet exile dressed up as keeping the peace. They didn't say I was banned. But the intent was clear, and so was their relief. It was my mother's 60th birthday. A woman I still called every year, even after she'd stopped calling me back. I'd sent flowers. Wrote cards. Got silence in return. But this time, they didn't even bother with the performance. My younger sister Emma responded first. Sounds perfect. 2 hearts. Mom deserves a peaceful day. Peaceful. As if my presence was war. As if I was chaos simply for existing outside their script. I didn't reply. I didn't ask why. I knew. I'd stopped playing my role. The quiet one. The useful one. The one who showed up even when forgotten. I'd stepped out, and they hated that I stood without begging to come back. I opened my calendar and deleted the reminder I'd set to call Mom that morning. Not out of spite. Out of acceptance. You don't call someone who's celebrated being without you. Still, something cracked in me. Not because I missed them. But because deep down, I wanted it. To hurt them that I wouldn't be there. And it didn't. That truth sat heavier than any insult. I tried to work, but my hands shook. I run a team of 30. Handle $1 million projects. But that morning, I felt like a child again, watching from the stairs while Emma opened the big presents and I got socks. That feeling never really leaves you. You grow up, but the shame stays small. Quiet. Tucked in your throat. Waiting for moments like this to remind you that in their eyes, you're still optional. I checked my email. Nothing from Mom. Nothing from Dad. Just a newsletter about leadership. Confidence. I almost laughed. I could lead a boardroom, but still felt invisible at the kitchen table I grew up around. Later that day, my coworker asked if I was going home for the weekend. I lied. Said I was laying low. How do you explain to someone that your own family treats you like a burden they've finally shaken? I ordered takeout and ate in silence. No candel. No photo. Just me and the echo of a party I wasn't wanted at. A party I probably paid for somehow, like all the other things I gave them over the years, but I didn't cry. I didn't text. I didn't beg. Instead, I remembered something Ethan, Emma's boyfriend, had said during a work call the week before. He looked nervous, then said, "You're kind of a legend here." He didn't know the irony of that line. That his girlfriend's family had disowned the very woman he now admired. That I'd built something so far from them, they had no idea what it even meant, and soon, at that party they were so proud I wouldn't attend, he would remind them exactly who I was. I was 6 the first time I saw it. Emma spilled grape juice on the white rug. I ran to get towels, panicked. My mom walked in, saw the stain, and blamed me. "Why weren't you watching her?" Emma cried. I got grounded. That's how it started. Little rewrites of truth. Moments where responsibility slipped from her shoulders and landed squarely on mine. I didn't argue. I thought that was love, carrying weight for the people you lived with. She was always spirited. That's the word they used. Loud, messy, forgetful, expensive. But never wrong. Never questioned. She crashed Dad's car at 17. They upgraded her to a safer model. I paid for my first car in cash. I remember birthdays. Hers were theme parties. Mine were family dinners where I cooked. Once, she got a puppy. I got a planner. Because you're so organized, Mom said. Like structure was compensation for neglect. I wasn't the golden child. I was the reliable one. The invisible glue. The cleanup crew. My wins were whispered. Her smallest efforts were broadcast. Emma tried a new hairstyle today. Hannah got another scholarship? That's just what she does. School was my escape. I loved the clarity of grades. Effort in, result out. No guessing how to please a teacher. No walking on eggshells to earn approval. At home, there were no such rules. They said I was too serious. That I needed to lighten up. What they meant was, stop noticing. Stop needing. Stop expecting. Fairness in a house where the currency was compliance. I learned not to cry in front of them. Even small tears were called manipulative. But when Emma wept, they folded around her like she was glass. Once, I found her crying over a breakup. I hugged her. My mom walked in and said, "Finally, you're being a good sister." They used me like a spare adult. Errands. Babysitting. Fixing things. Explaining things. But they never saw me as someone who needed anything herself. My needs were seen as threats. Her needs were seen as love. When I moved out at 23, no one helped me pack. My mom said, "You're always running from this family." I wanted to say, "No. I'm running toward myself." But I didn't. I just drove away. I started my company a year later. Quietly. No family investment. No support. Just late nights, risk, and a small loan from a mentor. They didn't ask about it. They didn't care until they saw me on a panel. Once and asked, "Was that you?" Even then, I got no congratulations. Just a backhanded, "Well, look who finally figured it out." I nodded. Smiled. Let it pass. Because fighting for recognition in my family always left me lonelier than silence. Still, some part of me hoped that one day, they'd see me. Not just the daughter who didn't need anything, but the woman who became everything on her own. Instead, they banned me from a birthday, and in doing so, gave me the clearest gift they ever could: confirmation. Emma got away with everything. That's not an exaggeration, it's a pattern. She failed 2 classes in high school. My parents blamed the teachers. I got 1 B in calculus and was grounded for a month. When she lied about sneaking out, they said, "She's just trying to grow up." When I came home 5 minutes late from tutoring, they called me irresponsible. I stopped explaining myself after that. At family dinners, every story circled back to her. Emma got a new haircut. Emma's trying yoga. If I shared a promotion or client win, Mom would blink and say, "That's nice, Hannah. But let's not make tonight about work." Once, I bought flowers for Mom after a stressful week. She left them on the counter to wilt. Emma made her a bracelet out of yarn and she wore it for 2 months, saying it was so meaningful. I offered to help plan Emma's college graduation dinner. She said no, then complained I wasn't involved. When I showed up anyway, I was placed at the far end of the table, next to the coat rack. We didn't have space, they said. My parents didn't ask about my company until Ethan mentioned he'd seen my name in Forbes under 30. Dad looked confused. Mom asked if it was one of those online things anyone can buy into. Emma once used my old laptop. She broke it. When I asked her to replace it, my mother said, "It's just a laptop. You make so much money now, let it go." That sentence never left me. I sent birthday gifts, Christmas cards. I showed up, even when I knew it wouldn't be mutual. At one point, I told myself their love was just different. But different doesn't mean invisible. They posted family photos without me. When I asked why, Mom said, "We didn't want to make things awkward." Awkward for who? I wasn't the one erasing people from the frame. Once, I got really sick. Alone in my apartment. I told my mom. She replied, "Make sure to rest. Emma's having a rough time too." I stared at the screen for hours before deleting the thread. Every time I set a boundary, I became the problem. Every no I said was followed by silence. Every absence was treated like drama, even if I was the one they stopped inviting. The red flags weren't hidden. They were brightly colored, waving at me across years. But I had been conditioned to call them wind. To tell myself I was overreacting. That love doesn't always look equal, but now, I wasn't reacting. I was remembering. And for the first time, I saw those moments not as misunderstandings, but as messages. They had been telling me for years that I didn't matter as much, and I had finally started believing them. Sunday arrived like a bruise. I tried to ignore it. Cleaned my apartment. Answered emails. Pretended it was any other day. But deep down, I knew what was happening across town. They were throwing a party for the woman who once said, "If you can't act like family, don't show up." Apparently, I had taken her advice literally. Now they were celebrating her obedience. Around noon, the photos started rolling in. Group shots. Balloons. A cake with Queen Diane written in cursive. Frosting. My sister wore a pale pink dress and a grin that stretched for miles. Someone tagged me by accident in a post. A blurry video of everyone shouting, "Surprise." My father hugged my mom. Emma blew kisses at the camera. Ethan stood behind her, quiet, smiling. I watched it 3 times. Not to hurt myself, but to confirm something I had always feared. They were happy without me. Not indifferent. Not sad. Happy. Then came the worst moment. A family photo, framed in perfect symmetry. My parents in the center. Emma beside them. Ethan next to her. A 4th space, just wide enough for one more person, left empty. Someone commented, "Hannah should have been there." My mother replied, "Some people choose distance. We respect that." I felt my jaw clench. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. It was weaponized framing. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone. I just sat still. The kind of stillness that comes after years of noise you've been forced to swallow. I ordered Thai food and ate in silence. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if they even said my name that day. Or if, like the photo, they edited me out of their mouths too. Around 8 p.m., I got a text from Ethan, "Hey, just wanted to say I wish you'd been here. Your absence was felt. I hope you're okay." I stared at it. Kindness from someone who owed me nothing. Someone who didn't even know the whole story, but felt enough to speak. I typed back, "Thanks. I wasn't invited." No explanation. Just truth. Cold and clean. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. I didn't hear back after that, but the next day, everything changed. The morning after the party, I couldn't move. Not from pain, just from weight. Emotional heaviness, thick and quiet, like someone had poured cement over my chest while I slept. I stayed in bed until noon. My phone buzzed a few times, Slack. Notifications, an email, a calendar reminder, but I didn't touch it. Nothing felt urgent. Nothing felt real. All I kept hearing was my mom's reply in that comment thread, "Some people choose distance." As if I had run. As if I hadn't spent years begging to be seen. I opened my laptop out of habit and stared at a blank screen. I was supposed to be reviewing prototypes. Instead, I scrolled through my camera roll, looking for evidence that I'd mattered to them. I found none. There were photos of work milestones, new apartment keys, a blurry picture from the day I signed my first big contract. No family in any of them. Just me, and the quiet victories I'd stopped trying to share. I started shaking. Not violently, just the soft tremble that wouldn't stop. My body finally reacting to years of emotional freezing. It felt like grief, but cleaner. More final. I got up and walked to the mirror. Looked at myself. Eyes swollen. Lips dry. Still. Wearing yesterday's hoodie. I didn't see someone broken. I saw someone done. That's when I sat down and started writing. Not an email. Not a message to them. Just a letter I would never send. A confession of everything I had tolerated. All the ways I bent, softened, silenced myself to earn their crumbs. I wrote for 2 hours. Poured out childhood birthdays. College rejections I never told them about. The time I got promoted and waited 3 days before telling anyone, only to hear my mom say, "That's nice, but Emma's moving in with her boyfriend." I cried while I typed. Not for them. For the version of me who thought being quiet would make me loved. When I finished, I printed it. Folded the pages. Put them in a drawer. I didn't need them to read it. I needed to prove to myself that the story existed, that I wasn't crazy, dramatic, or ungrateful. I took a shower. Washed my hair. Put on clean clothes. Made coffee slowly. Deliberately. For the first time, I felt like I was parenting myself, and then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my website's contact form. Looked at all the job inquiries, the speaking invitations, the thank you notes from people who had learned from me. I mattered. Just not to the people who raised me, and maybe that was the beginning of freedom. Later that week, I got a LinkedIn notification. Ethan had updated his profile. His new headline read, "Product Lead, Dev Side, reporting to Hannah Clark." My full name. Public. I clicked on it instinctively. Scrolled through his page. There it was again, in the experience section, works under the leadership of Hannah Clark, CEO and founder of HC Systems. A hyperlink to my company's page. My breath caught. It wasn't the fact that he worked for me, I'd known that from the beginning. It was the fact that he made it visible. Unapologetically. In a space where my family could no longer pretend I didn't exist. I checked the analytics on our website. Traffic from Facebook had spiked. I dug deeper. Someone in my hometown had shared our latest press release. That same one with my face on it. Then I found the post. It was on my mom's Facebook wall. A cousin had shared an article titled, "Meet the female tech CEO quietly disrupting the industry." My name. My photo. My words. Right there. Shared by accident? Maybe. But it was there. Underneath, someone had commented, "Isn't this Emma's sister?" No reply from my mom. Just silence. Not even a like. But she hadn't deleted the post. I checked Emma's Instagram. Nothing about the party. No photos. With Ethan. Just a vague story of her holding a drink with the caption, "Still processing." That was rare for her. She lived online. That's when it hit me. Something had happened at that party. Something unscripted. Ethan must have said something. Or maybe someone connected the dots. Either way, the performance cracked. I didn't reach out to him. I didn't need to. The message had already been delivered in the most public, irrefutable way. The forgotten daughter was the one they unknowingly depended on. I kept thinking about how often they'd said I was too much. Too proud. Too distant. When really, I was just tired of folding myself into something small enough to fit their comfort zone. I opened the draft letter I'd written during my breakdown. Added one line at the end, "I didn't leave the family. I just stopped begging to be in the photo." And for the first time in a long time, I slept without waking up in guilt. They didn't know it yet, but the story they'd written about me was about to collapse, because the sister they banned from the birthday was the boss their favorite had to report to. The story reached me in pieces. A former neighbor messaged me on Facebook. "I didn't know you were that Hannah Clark. Your sister's boyfriend was bragging about working for you. The look on your mom's face, wish you'd seen it." I didn't reply. Just read the message 3 times, slowly. Let the weight of it settle. For once, someone had said my name in the room, and not as a cautionary tale. Later, one of Emma's college friends followed me on Instagram. Then another. I checked their bios. Marketing interns, tech analysts. People in my industry. People who now knew who I was outside of family gossip. I imagined the moment. The table. The cake. The smug silence about my absence. And then Ethan. Saying something simple. Direct. Maybe even proud. She's my boss. For words that burned through years of erasure. I didn't need revenge, but I had in the quietness that followed. In the calls that didn't come. The silence on my mother's Facebook page. The story had shifted, and they were scrambling to rewrite it. Ethan didn't message me again. He didn't need to. His action was louder than anything he could have typed. He didn't defend me to be noble. He spoke truth in a room where truth had been optional for decades. I updated my website. Added a new photo. A new quote, "They'll hear your name in rooms you were never invited into." I wore red to my next panel event. Emma hated red. Said. It was too aggressive. I wore it anyway. Stood on stage. Spoke clearly. A man in the audience whispered to someone, "She's got presence." That word. Finally, Mind. A local magazine did a piece on my company's female-led leadership. My name, in print. The same name that had been ignored on birthday invitations now had weight in the city's business scene. My father sent a text. Just one line, "Proud of you. Wish you'd been at the party." I stared at it. Didn't reply. Because now he was proud? After a stranger spoke my name, no. This time, they would feel my absence, not as a punishment, but as proof that I'd finally built a life where I no longer had to ask for a seat. I don't keep photos of my family anymore. Not out of anger, just clarity. You don't frame people who refuse to see you. You remember, and then you move forward. My apartment is quiet. Calm. On my bookshelf, there's a photo from the panel event. I'm holding the mic, smiling, not for show, but because I finally know I don't need to shrink to survive. Work is steady. My team is growing. Last week, a new intern asked, "How did you build all this?" I said, "One ignored birthday at a time." He laughed. I didn't. Some truths don't need punchlines. I still hear about them sometimes. Through friends. Through social media. I don't search. I don't engage. The ache is dull now, like a scar you only feel when it rains. Emma hasn't reached out. I'm not sure she knows what to say. Maybe she's embarrassed. Maybe she's still pretending nothing changed. That's fine. Pretending was always her role. Mom sent an email last month. Just checking in. Hope life is treating you well. I read it once. Didn't reply. I don't owe her updates on a life she never wanted to know. Sometimes I wonder if Ethan regrets what he said. But then I remember the way he said it, simple. Direct, unashamed. He didn't say it to defend me. He said it because it was the truth. I've learned to hold space for both grief and growth. Some days, I miss what never was. Other days, I'm grateful I was forced to build alone. Because no one can take credit for this version of me. I framed the article that went viral. Not for decoration, for remembrance. A reminder that my voice was always valid. They just weren't listening. I walk differently now. Not faster. Not harder. Just without apology. Like someone who no longer needs to be invited to take up space. A friend asked recently if I'll ever forgive them. I said, I already have. Forgiveness is just letting go of the hope they'll ever understand. There's peace in that. In releasing the need for recognition from people who only ever saw your usefulness, and maybe, that's the final act of rebellion, not becoming louder, but becoming undeniable.